Well, let's go all the way down to the bottom of this geologic time scale. All the way down to the Precambrian and Cambrian eras. Now, the Precambrian, according to evolutionists, occurred about 650 to 544 million years ago. Then the Cambrian period existed for about 544 to about 505 million years ago. That's based on the evolutionist time scale. Now, during this time, in the Precambrian, we have all these single-celled organisms. If evolution is true, we should find many, many transitions leading up to the Cambrian. Because in the Cambrian, we find very complex creatures like jellyfish and trilobites and creatures like that. We should find these transitions. Well, let's see. First of all, the Cambrian explosion, which is called biology's Big Bang, is the sudden appearance of many complex creatures. Notice that word, sudden appearance. This entire period lasted, this transition lasted between 5 and 10 million years. And during that time, in the Cambrian period, every major body plan suddenly appears. And these body plans, these designs, still exist today. In other words, we go from single-cell organisms all the way up to very complex creatures with no transitions. Now, if evolution is true, they must be able to produce the evidence. Because if they can't, that means their whole foundation of the fossil record is false. And if the foundation is not there, we don't even need to go anywhere else. Because that means their entire model is now based on faith, not science. Now, this chart here, based on the evolution model, we're going to compare evidence against evolution here. On the left-hand side, I have a time scale. On the bottom, I have morphology, the shape. Now, if Darwinian model is true, we should start from a single cell and gradually produce this tree going up to the Cambrian era. We should have this many, many transitions going all the way up to give us all these major body plans we have in existence today. This is if evolution is true. If Darwinian evolution is true, we should find these intermediates from single cell going all the way up to the Cambrian. But in fact, this is what we actually observe. Again, every major body plan, complex creatures suddenly showing up in the fossil record with no transitions. Sudden appearance of complex creatures. That clearly supports created after their time. Now, at this point, we don't really need to go any further in the fossil record. We will. We're going to continue. But from an argumentative point of view, from a discussion point of view, this is where evolution ends. They have no foundation for what they're teaching. If there's no foundation, why should I accept the evolution model when they can't produce the evidence? I already have a faith. Why should I accept your faith? You see, that's what we need to be doing here. The evolution model clearly shows they have to have faith here. They have no foundation. Let's see what the scientists have to say. David Berlinski writes in his book, A Tour of the Calculus. Now, he's an evolutionist, says this. There is no question that such gaps exist. A big gap appears at the beginning of the Cambrian explosion over 500 million years ago, when the great numbers of new species, get this, suddenly appeared in the fossil record. Ariel Roth, Ph.D. in zoology, in his book Origins, writes this. The Cambrian explosion is not just a case of all the major animal phyla appearing at about the same place in the geologic column. It is also a situation of no ancestors to suggest how they might have evolved. In other words, where are the thousands and thousands of thousands of observable intermediate or transitional forms? See, this is the foundation of evolution again. If they can't produce the observable evidence, why should we accept evolution? I already have a faith. Why should I accept another faith called evolution when you can't supply the evidence? Now, here's a book, textbook, Biology, Miller and Levine, 2002. They state this. The Cambrian period, which begins 544 million years ago, is marked by an abundance of different fossils. Why the difference from earlier periods? And they state, by the Cambrian period, some animals had evolved shells, skeletons, and other hard body parts. Folks, you go through this book, you will not see one transition form to support this model. What they have done in this textbook is made a great claim without producing any real evidence. That is called faith. And we are allowing faith, a religious faith called evolution, to be taught in this country, in our public schools, in a science classroom. So what do the facts support? At this area, the foundation, the facts support all creatures were created after their kind. Because no one has been able to find the thousands and thousands and thousands of intermediates that should be out there between the Precambrian and the Cambrian. So let's move on up. Invertebrate to vertebrate. Where do fish come from? Again, here's an earlier version of the biology book by Miller and Levine. And they state this: fishes are considered to be the most primitive living vertebrate. Similarities in structures and embryological development show that fishes and modern invertebrate chordates probably did evolve from common invertebrate ancestors that lived many millions of years ago. Notice the phrase, probably did evolve. That is not science. That is a faith-based statement. Why can't they produce the evidence? I go through all this biology textbook. I don't see one claim anywhere of an intermediate. Not one single intermediate to support this claim in the textbook. Why is that any different than created after their kind? Why are we being allowed to teach one religious faith in a classroom and not all the others?